Hello, fans of legends through time oldies stories from the Trojan War and Trojan Horse. Let's hear it right away. Imagine a grand feast at the top of Mount Olympus. The gods and goddesses are gathered, heavenly music plays, and laughter echoes through the clouds. But there is one uninvited guest, Eris, the goddess of strife. She came not with gifts, but a golden apple. On it was written, "To the most beautiful." Three goddesses immediately stood up: Hera, queen of the gods; Athena, goddess of wisdom and war; and Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. They argued. Who deserved the apple the most? Zeus, the ruler of the sky, refused to get involved. He appointed a mere mortal to decide, Paris, the young prince of Trojan. The three approached Paris, and each tried to bribe him. Hera promised power over the world. Athena offered wisdom and victory on the battlefield. Aphrodite promised the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, Helena, wife of the king of Sparta. And so Paris chose love. Little did he know that his choice would ignite the most legendary war ever recorded in mythology, the Trojan War. After choosing Aphrodite as the most beautiful goddess, Paris has no idea that the promised gift is a curse disguised as love. Aphrodite kept her promise. She arranged for Paris to meet Helena, the most beautiful woman in the world. But Helena was no ordinary woman. She was the wife of King Menelaus, ruler of Sparta and queen of Greece. When Paris arrived in Sparta, the welcome was gracious. But when Menelaus leaves Paris and Helena disappear, did Helena come for love? Or was she kidnapped in the shadow of the goddess's seduction? Legend never agrees. What is certain is that when Menelaus returned to find his throne and wife gone, his anger boiled over. He didn't just seek revenge, he waged war. Together with his brother Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, they gathered the kings of Greece. Soldiers, ships, heroes, all sent to besiege Troy. Paris and Helena's love was no longer just a matter of two hearts. It was a tiny spark that set the whole world on fire. She was called the most beautiful woman who ever lived, hair as smooth as the night eyes like the morning sky. And her smile, it was said, was enough to make the gods fight each other. Her name was Helena, daughter of Zeus and Leda, half human, half goddess. Grew up in luxury and unrivaled beauty. But her beauty was a curse disguised as a gift. She is fought over by Greek royalty, eventually marrying Menelaus, king of Sparta. But when Paris arrives with a promise of love from Aphrodite, Helena chooses to go with him to Trojan. Or perhaps she was taken by force. There's no real definitive story. What is clear is that one woman, one decision was enough to make all of Greece unite and sail east. For the sake of one person, 1,000 ships were launched. And that's how Helena became known to the world, not just as queen, but as the face that launched 1,000 ships. Love or betrayal, goddess or destroyer. Helena is not just a legend. She is a symbol of how powerful a choice can be and how high the price can be. From every corner of Greece, the call to war echoed. King Agamemnon, ruler of Mycenae and brother of Menelaus, raised the banner of war. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about honor and power. And one by one, legendary heroes answered the call. From Thessaly came Achilles, son of Thetis, a young hero of unparalleled strength and tragic destiny. He comes with Patroclus, his best friend and soul brother. From Ithaca, Odysseus, the shrewd king, refuses to go, at first pretending to be mad to stay with his family. But he could not resist fate. He knew that without him, the war would end in chaos. Ajax, the giant from Salamis, came with great power. Nestor, the wise old king, became the war advisor, and dozens of other kings brought ships, armies, and ambition. They gathered in the harbor of Aulis, 1,000 ships, a gigantic array that shook the Aegean Sea. One goal: to reclaim Helena from the Trojans. But what awaited them on the other side was not just high walls and powerful armies. What awaits are curses, betrayals, and an unavoidable destiny. Among the thousands of warriors who went to Trojan, there was one name that could not be matched by anyone else: Achilles, the son of King Peleus and sea goddess Thetis. Human blood ran through him, but also half-god blood. From birth, Thetis knew her son was destined for greatness, but not for long. He would live as a legendary hero, but die young. To protect him, Thetis dipped baby Achilles into the river Styx, a sacred river in the underworld that gave immunity to anyone its waters touched. But as she dipped him, Thetis held his heel, and that part never touched the water. One tiny speck, one crack in the perfect strength. Achilles grew into the greatest warrior Greece had ever known. Fast, strong, invincible on the battlefield. But beneath his fame and skill, he knew his destiny was written. Going to Trojan meant achieving eternal glory and losing his life. But for Achilles, it was better to die young and be remembered forever than to live a long, meaningless life. And from this was born the legend of the heel, a name still used today to describe a hidden weakness: Achilles' heel. If Achilles was the brightest light in the Greek camp, then from within the walls of Trojan shone Hector, son of King Priam, prince, warrior, and above all the protector of his people. Unlike Achilles, who pursued glory, Hector fought for duty, family, and homeland. He knew what it meant to risk his life not for a big name, but for the people he loved. Day after day, he stood on the front lines, resisting the Greek invasion, leading his troops without fear. But one name haunted his mind: Achilles. The duel between them was an inevitable fate. One was a symbol of rage and absolute power, the other was the epitome of honor and sacrifice. And on that day, on a silent, dusty battlefield, two legends met: Hector versus Achilles, a duel that shook the Trojan skies. But alas, courage does not always trump strength. Hector fell, and his body was dragged by Achilles around the city walls, an act that left even the gods speechless. But the Trojan people would never forget. Not because Hector died a hero, but because he lived a true protector. Amidst the roar of war and the bloodshed, there is one relationship that goes deeper than friendship: Achilles and Patroclus, two souls who grew up together since childhood, complementing each other, one like fire, one like water. And when Achilles pulled out of the war because of his anger at Agamemnon, he chose silence while Troy pressed on. Seeing Greece on the brink of destruction, Patroclus could not remain silent. With Achilles' cryptic permission, he donned the hero's armor and led the army into battle. At the time, many thought Achilles had returned. Greek morale rose. The Trojan army retreated. But amidst the chaos, Patroclus met up with Hector. The fight broke out, and in the hands of the Trojan prince, Patroclus died. When the news reached Achilles, the world seemed to stop. Weeping, screaming, and rage merged into one. The hero no longer cared about political conflicts. He only wanted one thing: revenge. Patroclus's death was not just the loss of a friend, it was heartbreak, and the point at which Achilles let go of everything. He returned to the battlefield, not as a hero but as a bringer of death. After the death of Patroclus, Achilles returned to the battlefield like a storm. He slashed, smashed, and demanded one name: Hector. And when the duel was over, when Hector lay lifeless, was still not finished. Achilles' rage burned more than just the enemy. He dragged Hector's body behind his chariot, many times, in front of the eyes of the Trojan people. But like everything that burns too brightly, he can't last. Paris, Hector's younger brother, was no warrior, no hero. But that day, he carried an arrow. Aided by Apollo, the sun god who favored Troy, Paris drew his bow, and the arrow flew straight, silent, deadly. It did not aim for the chest, not the head, but the heel. the little spot that had been hidden from fate. The arrow pierced Achilles' heel, and the hero collapsed, not by the army, not by a king, but by a single arrow, and a destiny that could never be resisted. Achilles' death was not just the end of a warrior, it was the beginning of a legend, a name that will continue to be called for centuries, because not even the gods could save him from the most human of weaknesses, a single fragile point among greatness. After years of siege, the Trojan Wall still stood. The Greek army began to lose hope, but out of desperation, a crazy plan was born. Odysseus, the cunning king of Ithaca, came up with an idea that would change everything: build a giant wooden horse statue, empty inside, but big enough to hide the chosen soldiers. The rest of the Greek army pretended to retreat, leaving the beach and their camp. The big gift remained, supposedly as a sign of surrender. The Trojan people cheered. They welcomed the long-awaited victory. The horse was brought into the city. It was placed in the main square as a symbol of glory. Night fell. The city feasted. And when all were asleep or drunk with victory, the wooden horse was unlocked. Greek warriors dismounted silently, opening the city gates for the main army, which quietly returned by sea. And before dawn, Troy was in flames. Houses, temples, palaces, all reduced to ashes. Shouts of victory turned to screams of agony. One decision, one unsuspecting gate opened, and a magnificent city collapsed in disbelief. This story leaves a lasting lesson. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Watch out for Greeks bearing gifts. In one night, Troy fell. The magnificent city that stood with pride for generations was scorched, fell, vanished by deceit and rage. King Priam was slain at the altar. Women and children were taken as captives. The place once called home is now just a pile of ashes. But what's remarkable about this story is not just how sad the end of Trojan is, but how alive it is. Thousands of years later, from oral to oral, from papyrus scrolls to books, from theater stage to big screen, the Trojan story continues to be told, ignited by a single golden apple and ended by a giant wooden horse. We still name Achilles, still admire Hector's honor, still discuss Helena's dilemma, and still study Odysseus's strategies. Because the Trojan War is not just about victory or defeat. It is a mirror of life, of love and ego, of sacrifice and vengeance, of ambition and destruction. And as long as people still love stories, Trojan will never truly disappear. Thank you for watching and listening. Hopefully we will see you again in other Legends Through Time oldies. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.